I still have no idea what I'm reading. Hooked in. I was loving it. She might be an instant buy author. Spoiling itself feels homophobic. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we're going to be doing an ARC reading vlog. Alright, so before you get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. And you gotta tell me in the comments, are you looking forward to these books? Are they on your TBR? Are you adding them now? Let's talk about it. So, if you're not familiar, ARC is an advanced reader copy. Shout out to NetGalley. I was able to get my hands on 2 books that I was highly anticipating. Starting at the top with Agnes, We Are Not by Jessica Alexander. Honestly, title and cover alone did definitely make me intrigued. But then when reading the summary, I saw Lesbian Vixens, followed later by Atmospheric Gothic Vampire Journey. I was very intrigued. So it looks as though we are following Agnes, who unfortunately is sick and staying at her brother's estate, but in her dreams and eventually her waking nightmares, she starts to see Mary, this mysterious woman that seems to cause chaos in her wake. And though Agnes is becoming more fascinated by Mary, unfortunately her brother Arthur is determined to cut her out. I hadn't really heard anybody else talk about this one, so I didn't have any expectations going in, but I was so excited. Next up is one from a repeat author of mine. I've read so many of this author's works at this point. I don't know if I would say she's an insta-buy author, but she might be an insta-buy author. That's going to be Mazey Eddings' newest romance, You Won't Forget Me. This one is also sapphic and is actually following 2 members of a band that recently has been dumped by the main character Cubby's boyfriend. He is now touring around America and seeing his success as a solo act. So not only is the group trying to stick it out as a band, but unfortunately, the same night that Cubby finally makes a move on Darcy, her childhood best friend, a photo also goes viral pairing Cubby along with their pianist Harry. So it seems kind of like it's going to have a manufactured love triangle, which sounds silly, but it probably could be a fun time. And I do know I love Mazey Eddings banter. So best friends to lovers, yeah, that definitely seems like it's going to be rife with banter and bickering. I cannot wait. But then also the band angle means forced proximity, and I am all over that. So on that note, I will talk to you guys again when I've started into one of these books. Hey guys, so I've started into Agnes, We're Not, and this is already super weird. I'm kind of into it, but at the same time, it's very much making me think of Plain Bad Heroines in that there are 20 million footnotes, and a lot of them don't actually feel like they're necessary at all. The way they're done here is interesting because it seems like they're being done in a way that's more reminiscent of like a nonfiction book where posit something and then you have a footnote to go along with it and that expands upon it but connects to a different topic further on in the book. It almost feels like it's like spoiling itself, and I don't even know how to talk about it. So for example, right out of the get-go, we're following this doctor character. I believe his name was Martin. He is referencing Mary, and then there's a footnote next to her name, and at the bottom it's like, go to page 30 to learn who Mary is. Or another one is like, anytime there's fog referenced, there will be a footnote that's like, go to this page to see more fog, go to this page to understand what the fog is. And at first I did do that, but then I quickly realized like, wait, this like literally is just continuing the story. Okay, I think I'm just gonna ignore the footnotes. I started in chapter 1 and then it's referencing something that happens in chapter 2. I was only in the first line of chapter 1. Why would I jump forward to chapter 2 to meet Mary whenever I'm gonna have to backtrack anyway? And then like the natural progression of the story leads me into chapter 2 anyways. I just basically have been ignoring the footnotes that are like that. Then there are other footnotes where they actually do feel like footnotes. It's just adding a little bit of extra. It almost feels like the footnotes are out of character with the rest of the book, to the point where like I almost am wondering, am I supposed to be reading this like it is a historical Gothic piece? Or am I supposed to be reading this where it's like a story within a story? Because the footnotes kind of feel that way. There's little things in the footnotes. The person who is writing this footnote is from like modern day roughly. So that's really strange, and I don't get it. It's interesting at the very least. Then there's been 1 or 2 footnotes that actually reference like other work. I think both of them so far have been nonfiction ones, and they're nonfiction pieces talking about Gothic storytelling or Gothic literature, and that's very meta and pretty interesting. On one hand, I do not understand what is happening in this book. I don't know what am I supposed to be taking away from what's going on. On the other hand, I'll give it to the author. I am intrigued. The way the story is being laid out is interesting. It's definitely unique. I don't know if I necessarily like it. It's keeping my attention at the very least. As far as the actual story itself goes, not diving into the footnotes, we have Agnes, and she ends up making friends with this woman, Mary, who might be a ghost. I'm not really sure. Whenever we're reading from one person's perspective, the writing is done in this way that is very strangely, like really stream of consciousness, but also over the top flowery. And it's a weird combo. It's kind of working for me because I do tend to like both of those writing styles. But at the same time, like I'll read a sentence that sounded really pretty, but like I have no idea what you're trying to convey to me. Apart from Agnes and Mary, we also, like I said, have Martin, who is this physician, and Martin is in love with this dude Thomas. I think Thomas is also kind of in love with Mary. But like I said, so far at the very least, it is keeping my attention. I don't know if that'll continue to work. Thank God this book is pretty short. If this was another Plain Bad Heroines in not only the whole footnote thing, but also in length, I would probably be DNFing this just because I don't think I could push through like 500 pages of it. But I think I could push through 200 pages of it. We'll see. Hello, my friends. So I think like 70-ish% into Agnes. I still have no idea what I'm reading. I actually think in certain points, it would be beneficial if you utilized the footnotes to flip back, better understand who this character is, how they play into the story that is unfolding. It's really not easy to do that in an ARC format, and it's even less easy to do that in the ARC format that they have this done on, because I can't get into my Kobo, can't really alter the pages in my phone. It's a little frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. The file style itself just doesn't really lend well to this kind of a book and this sort of reading experience that I think the author is trying to get you to do. As far as the plot, I'm putting together perhaps one of these characters is some sort of a paranormal being. There's a lot of references of things to vampires that made me think it was vampires. In fact, I think the synopsis actually says vampires in it. I don't think anything we've seen tells me this is actually a vampire. Their role in the story doesn't feel like they're a vampire. It almost feels like this character's role is undoing the very fabric of reality for the rest of the characters, and we're following them as they are losing their grip, and some of them are maybe kind of putting things together. I don't know for a fact because I've not read House of Leaves, but a lot of this is kind of making me think of House of Leaves and what I know about that book. I just don't necessarily know if I could say the author is doing it well. Like I said, I'm kind of putting things together, but I don't know if I'm actually following this enough, reach the end of the book and be like, everything makes sense now. I'm still so lost on a lot of what I've read. I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't. No clue at all what my rating is going to look like when I finish this book. Hello, my loves. So I have finished out Agnes, and I'm going to be so honest with you. I don't know what the I just read. Like, this book was weird and confusing, not in a way where it was enjoyable. And I think that's the big problem here. I finished this book and I genuinely do not know if I'm going to retain a single thing I read here, apart from this was really weird and confusing. And listen, maybe if I had a physical copy of this and I could more easily flip back and forth through the book whenever it came to the footnotes, perhaps that might have helped me actually stay within the story and like follow the plot line that was happening. Even when it comes to following like the footnotes and things, sometimes I feel like the footnotes really were unnecessary. Some of them just are straight up superfluous. Others are confusing in themselves. There's like actually sort of a story within a story thing taking place in the footnotes, which is definitely kind of making me go back to the comparison of Plain Bad Heroines or House of Leaves, because I think, well, I know Plain Bad Heroines kind of did that. I think House of Leaves sort of does the same thing. I finished the book and it's like, I don't feel as though it actually took a natural like story progression. So what was the point of it? The writing was like, it was almost like hot and cold, because sometimes it would flow really pretty and then other times it's like super choppy. Sometimes it's this like stream of consciousness and other times it's like this overtop flowery stuff. I just never could really get a hold of it. That paired with the alternating back and forth between numerous characters, some of which had numerous names actually. I eventually put put that together. And then at the end, it became glaringly obvious that like this story is not told in a linear format. All of those things together just made me so lost. So lost. This is one of those where like I think there's definitely some people out there who would enjoy this book and enjoy like piecing everything together and really unfolding the story for themselves. Unfortunately, like that's just not the kind of book for me. Like I am not the audience for it, because like I said, I finished this and it's truly one of those where I feel like this all went in one ear and out the other. I don't think a single thing about this book is really gonna stick in my head. I probably could have DNF'd it. I was just so intrigued. I guess like that's the one thing I can give this book. Probably the highest score it had on my Cawpile rating is for intrigue, because I was just wondering, where is this going? What answers are we actually going to find out? I don't know if I would necessarily label this book as a Sapphic vampire story, which was kind of the two main things that really made me pick it up. I mean, there are Saphics in the cast of characters. There's a monster-ish element that's reminiscent to a vampire. I don't know if that's actually what was going on here, but also I don't know what was going on here. So take that with a grain of salt. This was 2 stars. It's a shame, but I will say, looking at the Goodreads ratings, it seems like a lot of people kind of had very similar feelings to me on this one. Again, I think if you do have any interest in this book, pick it up physically. I think that will probably help a lot. This was definitely not for me. Hello, my loves. So I have started into You Won't Forget Me, and I'm currently probably like 40-ish% into it. And this started really, really strongly. The first 20% of this book, I was hooked in. I was loving it. I probably should have filmed an update then, and it could have been so positive, because now we're at 40% and it's starting to drag a little bit, and I'm starting to have some issues, which makes me sad. So we have our main character, Cubby, which first off, don't like this name. Simultaneously so far, I'm really liking Cuddy, but this is also becoming one of those books where it feels like I am hanging out in my own head on a really bad anxiety day. It has definitely been told to us that Cuddy suffers from depression, and it is very clear that she is probably getting no help for this. She is definitely not taking anything to try and stabilize her moods. And we have definitely seen her fall into some really bad habits, which are exacerbating her depression. That's not great. However, that being said, I do think it is building out her character very well. And like I said, we are seeing her take some steps and like make some decisions that do make a lot of sense, because we know she is suffering from untreated depression. But it doesn't mean I necessarily like reading it, especially since this is a romance book. Like romance books, I tend to want to go in enjoying it. I don't want to read it and like think, oh, the character work is really phenomenal, but like, oh my God, so depressing. I don't read Nicholas Sparks for a reason. In the prologue chapter, we get to see the night of her first date with Connor. And actually, beforehand, she is really nervous because she has never kissed a boy. I think she's like 18. And Darcy jokingly is like, oh, well, why don't we kiss? It's fine. We're best friends. It's just a little bit of practice. Gay. So they do that, and it definitely just blows Cuddy's little world. Unfortunately, she goes on to still date Connor, and he's a bag of dicks. Then we have a 5-year jump into the future. We get to see that Connor has definitely not changed. In fact, as of this point, he has officially broken up with Cuddy, is going off on his own as a solo musician, and is actually starting to steal some of Cuddy's work. Plus, all of his music is about their breakup, and he's really framing it in a way that puts her in a bad light, even though he was definitely the villain of their relationship. So Cuddy is going through it, babes. So the same night that they are finding out that Connor is stealing a bunch of Cuddy's music, the band finally kind of uses this as their kicking off point to really try and start writing and working together. They have a cohesive night, go to a bar to celebrate. Darcy takes a kind of sultry accidental photo of Cuddy with the pianist, Harry, and they post that on the internet, and it sort of goes viral. Not necessarily in a good way, because everybody starts to say that Cuddy is basically rubbing her relationship with Harry into Connor's space. She's jumping bandmates, like she's a man-eater, any kind of gross misogynistic name calling they can do, they're doing it to her. And unfortunately, that entire situation is worsened by the fact that Cuddy finally makes the jump with Darcy. They end up sleeping together, only for the next morning, Darcy's kind of like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. We're just friends. It's nothing to worry about. And so now Cuddy is kind of continuing to question her sexuality and her attraction to Darcy. terrified that if she acknowledges it, it is going to ruin their friendship, all at the same time while having to deal with all of this band-related stuff, because then their manager starts to tell them that she believes Cuddy and Harry should fake date, because even though it's not necessarily good attention, it's getting a ton of attention and they need to capitalize on it. And I can totally understand from that perspective why Cuddy is not a fan of the situation. However, a big problem I'm starting to have with the book as it continues on is Cuddy seems shockingly naive about the music industry, given the fact that her whole dream has been to become a musician. She just keeps coming up with complaints and issues about things that it's like, this is the industry. I don't understand how you were so unaware of this. Again, all of this stuff compounding on top of her depression and also impacting her self-image. And like, it's just not necessarily the most fun to be in her head. Just a lot of stress going on right now. Again, like I think the writing around Cuddy's character so far is fantastic. Like I think all of this is actually working very well. But as far as like our romance actually goes, I'm not super into it. I'm really not feeling a ton from Darcy's character. I do feel like we've seen some like cute best friend moments, but their interactions so focused on Darcy having to comfort Cuddy because of everything she's going through that we're not really getting to see any of the more like organic everyday intricacies of their relationship or like any easy intimacy that they have with one another because they've been best friends for so many years. Any sort of sexual tension outside of that one spicy scene. I wish we were getting more time to really focus on Cuddy and Darcy's relationship rather than all of this other stuff that's happening with the plot. I'm in it for all of the stuff happening in the plot. It's making it feel like the romance itself is suffering, which is a shame because it's a romance book and I tend to love Mazey Eddings romances and I'm not really loving this one so far. Hello my dudes. So I am filming this update sooner than I would like to be for very sad reasons because unfortunately I think I'm going to be DNFing You Won't Forget Me. Did not see this one coming. I really love Mazey Eddings. Oh my god, this is such a letdown. This being my first book finished for June feels homophobic. Though I do like the character work that is being done around Cuddy, and actually, you good? That was like a really awkward jump. Actually, I did find out that apparently this is set in the same universe as another one of the author's works, Tilly and Technicolor. I haven't actually read that one because it was young adult, but the hero character is actually twins with Cuddy. So it was kind of a cool connection there that I noticed. Like I said, character arc is continuing to grow. I do like to see how that is working, but so much of this book is really coming down to just complete lack of communication. That alone is driving me up a wall, but I really do not like the turn this has taken. From the start, I was concerned that a love triangle might pop up. Obviously, I did know that there was going to be this like fake relationship that Cuddy sets up with Harry while she is actually wanting to start a relationship with Darcy. But I was really, really hoping it was going to be more along the lines of like highlighting the fact that, you know, men and women who are both attracted to men and women can still be friends. They can still have a totally platonic relationship. As I've been reading the book, I was also really hoping for that fact to kind of highlight for Cuddy, people around her do care about her. She does have people in her life who are actually good friends to her. But no, this has officially started to take the turn into a love triangle and I hate it. I just hate it. How Cuddy is responding to it is just once again reinforcing the total lack of communication thing, and I can't stand it. It's driving me crazy. I saw another reviewer comment that this is like a shockingly male-centered story for being a sapphic romance, and I do have to agree because like the first part of the book, so much of it was focused on Cuddy's prior relationship with this Connor guy, but now it's starting to really just focus on her relationship with Harry, and like I don't want this. The romance is supposed to be between Cuddy and Darcy, but in reality I am 60% into this book and they've probably spent majority of it fighting, majority of it avoiding talking to each other, and I can't handle it. I can't handle it. As far as the mental health element goes, Cuddy is finally starting to realize the way she interacts with social media is not healthy. It is an addiction, and in fact she is almost utilizing it in a way to harm herself. She also finally had a moment of kind of realizing, oh my god, I might be attracted to women, and I did like that. I really enjoyed watching the entire process of her figuring out like, oh, relatable, honestly. But one thing that is starting to grind my gears is the fact that Cuddy keeps saying she is so out of control in her life. She doesn't know what she wants, and she isn't making any strides to like make her situation better. She is just suffering the consequences that the people around her are doing, which are affecting her life. And it's just really frustrating because it feels like she's just completely hands off about how her life should be led when like she is an adult. She's a 23-year-old woman. She has a mouth. She sure knows how to use it. I guess it just reinforces the whole like lack of communication thing, but not necessarily around like any of the romances that are happening, just like around how Cuddy is existing in the story. Yeah, I am very, very sad to DNF this at 60% because I really, really liked how this book started. But I'm not vibing with this anymore. I'm not going to be able to put up with it. I do think this book would fall in the new adult category, but like how Cuddy is acting and the way the plot is progressing and how issues are coming up, it's definitely making the story feel younger. I'm not going to say 23 is like a giant jump from being 17, but like there's definitely some maturity that happens in that time period. At the very least, you would think by this age, she would know sometimes you have to have an uncomfortable conversation. But I don't think that reality has smacked her in the face just yet. Really sad note to end on with this ARC reading vlog. 2 books that were not particularly great. I do have another ARC reading vlog that's going to be coming out after this one. Fingers crossed it goes better. So on that note, that's officially it for today, y'all. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's leave a guitar emoji down in the comments. I've got links to all of my socials as well as a few ways you can support me down in the description. I come out videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!